Take a look around the room you're sitting in right now. I mean, really look.
Yeah, take inventory of what's actually powered on.
Right. You probably have a smartphone sitting on a table nearby, resting on a wireless charger. The screen is completely black.
Or maybe a laptop closed on your desk with that little standby light just pulsing softly in the corner of your eye.
Exactly. Or a smart TV mounted on the wall, perfectly silent. To you, in this exact moment, those devices look entirely dormant.
You assume they are resting.
Right. They are waiting patiently for you to pick them up, to press a button, to command them. But what if they aren't resting at all?
This is where it gets unsettling.
What if, while you sit there thinking you are the sole master of that hardware, those devices are actively working for an invisible boss, functioning as nodes in a massive, hidden digital economy?
We are stepping into a really, really strange reality regarding how modern internet infrastructure actually operates. Because, we look at a blank screen and we immediately equate that with inactivity.
We think screen off means device off.
Exactly. But beneath that black glass, the network cards, the Wi-Fi antennas, the constant tether to your local router, they are primed, powered, and fully connected.
And there's a reason they are being utilized. Which brings us to today's deep dive into an investigative piece of source material titled "The Silent Network: How AI is Harvesting Your Idle Bandwidth."
It's a fascinating piece.
It really is. Our mission today is to uncover this entirely unseen apparatus. It's basically a shadow economy operating right under our noses, utilizing our own personal hardware.
And to understand why this is happening, we have to look at the stakes. The explosive planetary scale growth of artificial intelligence over the last few years has created a desperate, an insatiable demand for raw computing power and web data.
Right.
And fulfilling that massive demand is quietly altering the foundational architecture of the internet. It's leveraging the very devices sitting in our living rooms.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how our devices are being used, we first have to understand why the AI industry is so incredibly desperate.
Well, we need to isolate the bottleneck that AI developers are hitting right now.
Yeah.
People often assume that AI development is purely constrained by compute,
Like just the raw mathematical processing power required to train a neural network.
Right. And while it's true that you need, football field-sized data centers filled with high-performance silicon just to crunch the numbers, that is really only half the equation.
What's the other half?
Data ingestion. AI models require oceans of web data, forums, articles, images, public databases. They have to continuously scrape the internet to learn and update.
And that is where the traditional data center models just hits a massive brick wall, right?
Exactly. If an AI developer tries to scrape a massive platform, say Reddit or Wikipedia, directly from their centralized server farm, they run into rate limits instantly.
Because to the target website, it looks like 10,000 rapid-fire requests are all coming from a single concentrated block of Amazon Web Services IP addresses.
Yeah, and the website's security protocol immediately recognizes that as a bot scraper. So it blocks the IP address entirely. You get hit with a pay-PCHA, or you just get permanently banned.
Which leaves these AI developers with a huge problem. They have the mathematical engines ready to process the data, but they physically cannot extract the data from the web without getting their IPs blocked.
They need their scraping requests to look organic.
Yeah.
They need them to look like a normal human being sitting in a normal house clicking on a web page.
Okay, so I want to use an analogy here. Let's think of the current AI landscape like a massive modern-day gold rush.
Oh, I like that.
Right. So you have all these miners, the AI companies, desperate to strike it rich. But instead of buying pickaxes from the single monopolistic megastore in town like the giant tech corporations.
Because the megastore controls the supply and sets all the rules.
Exactly. The megastore is blocking them. So instead of dealing with that, the miners have figured out a way to sneak into everyone's backyard tool sheds and borrow their shovels while they sleep. They bypass the monopoly entirely.
What's fascinating here is that this is the exact genesis of what the source calls the shadow economy. It's a secondary, unseen market driven by sheer necessity.
They need to bypass big tech's stranglehold.
Right. They need residential IP addresses.
Yeah.
And the only way to get a massive distributed pool of residential IP addresses is to route their traffic through the devices of ordinary users around the globe.
Because they have to turn to the only other available resource, us.
Yes. The collective power of ordinary people. Millions of ordinary users are quietly connecting their idle internet bandwidth to a global grid.
But hold on, let me push back slightly on the source's phrasing here. The text says users are essentially renting out their digital footprint.
Yeah.
But if it's a shadow economy, is everyone actively aware they are renting it out? Or is this just happening in the background?
Well, the source describes this as a brilliant evolution of decentralized computing. Because instead of a centralized server farm, you have a global grid. It distributes the massive workload of AI training across millions of smaller, ordinary nodes.
But wait, modern operating systems like iOS or Windows are incredibly aggressive about background resource management. They do it specifically to save battery life.
Oh, absolutely.
So if my phone was secretly running complex AI models in my pocket, wouldn't the OS just kill the background process instantly? Or my phone would be physically hot to the touch and dead by 10 a.m.? People notice when their battery drops?
That is a really critical distinction to make, and it highlights a common misunderstanding. The heavy mathematical lifting, the actual neural network training, is not happening on your phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would definitely drain the battery and trigger OS safeguards.
Yeah.
The shadow economy is not harvesting your computational math power. It is harvesting your idle bandwidth and your residential IP address.
So my device is just acting as a routing proxy.
Exactly. It's entirely seamless.
Okay, so it's basically a digital game of telephone.
Yes, that's exactly it.
The AI data center needs to look at a website, but it knows it will get blocked. So the data center whispers the request to my smartphone. My smartphone, using my home Wi-Fi and my residential IP address, sends a totally normal-looking request to the website. The website thinks I am just browsing, so it sends the data back to my phone.
And then your phone silently whispers that data back to the AI data center.
Wow.
By proxying the request through your device, the AI company inherits your digital reputation. They inherit the trust that websites place in a standard residential ISP.
And the bandwidth required to forward a text-based web page back to a central server is just tiny.
It's incredibly small. It doesn't spin up your processor, it doesn't drain your battery in any noticeable way, and it easily slips past the background task limits of a standard phone.
Which brings us to the most obvious question. How do these companies gain access to our devices in the first place?
Yeah, the permission aspect.
Right. If millions of users are connecting to this global grid, it implies permission. But nobody is consciously signing a contract to lease out their home network to an AI firm.
Well, the permission is almost always buried deep within the architecture of free software.
Like through SDKs, software development kits.
Exactly. When a developer creates a free utility app, say a PDF scanner, a free VPN, a flashlight app, or a simple mobile game, they need a way to monetize it.
They used to just drop in an advertising SDK to show you banner ads.
Right. But recently, a much more lucrative monetization model has emerged: proxy network SDKs.
So the app developer integrates a piece of prepackaged code from a proxy broker.
Yep.
And when I download that free PDF scanner and blindly click accept on the 50-page terms of service, which everyone does, I am legally agreeing to let that app use my device as a background proxy node.
You are. And the financial pipeline here is just wild. The proxy broker aggregates hundreds of thousands of these casual app users into a massive pool of residential IPs.
Okay.
Then, the AI company pays the proxy broker thousands of dollars a month for access to that pool.
And what about the app developer?
The proxy broker pays the developer of the PDF scanner a fraction of a cent for every megabyte of data routed through their users' devices.
And the user, the person paying the actual internet bill for that bandwidth.
They get absolutely nothing, except the ability to scan a PDF for free.
Unbelievable. It is a brilliant, invisible arbitrage. The user's digital footprint is being commercialized at scale, and the awareness of that transaction is virtually zero.
The engineering scale is remarkable. Instead of a single scraper failing to ingest the internet, you have a microscopic, decentralized mesh network.
A completely silent network.
Exactly, chopping the workload up into millions of tiny requests. One goes to a smartphone in Tokyo, another to a laptop in London, another to the smart TV of the person listening to us right now.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because while the engineering behind this might be brilliant, the reality of how it uses your specific connection introduces a severe hidden risk.
It does.
The source poses this really alarming question. Do you actually know what kind of data your IP address is fetching while you sleep?
This raises an important question: the disconnect between your physical reality and your digital reality.
Right, because an IP address isn't just a random string of code. It points to a physical location. It points to you.
Exactly. In your physical reality, you might be asleep in your bed. But digitally, Your IP address is actively roaming the internet, fetching data on behalf of an invisible boss.
Think about the physical equivalent of this. It's like lending someone the keys to your car while you're asleep, assuming they're just going to run a quick errand.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
But what if they use your car as a getaway vehicle in a robbery? The traffic cameras at the intersection don't capture a picture of the invisible driver. They capture a picture of your license plate.
And that license plate is registered to your home address.
Exactly. In this digital game of telephone, if the AI developer uses your IP address to do something illicit, the digital license plate left at the scene points directly back to you.
We really have to consider the lack of visibility here. When you agree to let a background app use your idle bandwidth, you have zero oversight into what specific web requests are being sent.
Right. It could be harmless. They might be pulling down public domain Wikipedia articles.
What if the automated scraper is instructed to pull data from a restricted corporate portal, or scraping copyrighted material?
Or downloading massive amounts of data from a legally monitored forum.
Exactly. To the servers hosting that restricted data, it doesn't look like an AI company is breaching their systems. It looks like you are.
The server logs will just show that the connection originated from your living room. You are effectively providing cover for the entire operation.
The technical term is surrendering outbound network control. You are allowing an opaque, automated network to wear your digital mask.
Wow.
And if that harvesting operation triggers a security alert, the digital footprint left behind is yours. The tech giants are shielded behind layers of decentralization, while the ordinary user assumes the outward-facing risk.
Which makes me wonder, how does someone actually know if their device is moonlighting as a proxy node? We established it doesn't drain the battery like a heavy computation would.
No, the traditional warning signs just aren't there. Detecting it requires looking at your hardware through a slightly more analytical lens.
Like checking the system settings.
Yeah, at the device level, you can check your detailed battery and data usage stats. Even though proxy routing doesn't drain a battery quickly, it still requires the Wi-Fi or cellular radio to remain active.
So if I see a simple calculator app consuming a disproportionate amount of background data over a 24-hour period,
that is a strong indicator of an embedded SDK utilizing your connection.
And what about at the network level?
You would look at the router itself. If you log into your home router's dashboard, you can monitor outbound traffic. If you see sustained spikes in data uploading at 3:00 a.m. when every device is supposed to be asleep,
then you are likely looking at an active node. The data is constantly flowing in and out, serving the external network.
Tracking that data flow forces us to reconsider the fundamental nature of our hardware.
So what does this all mean for you and me? Because historically, we view ourselves as consumers, right? Or travelers on the information superhighway.
Right. The device is our vehicle, and the internet is the road. We log on, we drive where we want, and we log off.
But this source flips that concept completely on its head.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a massive paradigm shift. The text makes a fascinating assertion. We're no longer just internet users. We have become the infrastructure.
The infrastructure, like the concrete, the asphalt, the power lines.
Yes. Infrastructure exists purely to facilitate the movement of something else. In this shadow economy, your resting smartphone, your idle bandwidth, they are the physical scaffolding upon which the next generation of AI is being built.
It strips away the agency we associate with owning personal technology. I mean, we buy a $1,000 smartphone assuming it serves us.
We assume a black screen means off. We assume our home Wi-Fi is a closed loop.
But the reality is, the device has a dual purpose. When the screen is on, it serves you locally. When the screen is off, it serves the global grid.
The shadow economy thrives in the blind spots of our technical understanding. By making the impact on each individual node so minuscule, the architects of this system have ensured the infrastructure remains entirely invisible.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the silent network, let's just recap the journey here. We started with AI's desperate, insatiable demand for power and data.
And their inability to get it through centralized channels.
Right, which led to the rise of decentralized shadow economies. Proxy brokers using SDKs and free apps to quietly turn our personal devices into routing nodes.
A global game of telephone.
Exactly, where our idle bandwidth is used to scrape data, leaving our personal digital license plates behind at the scene. And finally, we looked at the unsettling reality that millions of ordinary devices are the very infrastructure of this new digital world.
It really is a lot to process.
It is. So tonight, when you plug your phone in and turn off the lights, take a second look at the devices surrounding you, because while you are clocking out for the day, your hardware might just be clocking in.
And I will leave you with one final lingering thought to explore on your own.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if our personal, idle digital footprints are collectively training the next generation of artificial intelligence, will the resulting AI models ultimately reflect the specific hidden habits of millions of sleeping users?
Wow, I never thought of that.
Right. We have to ask ourselves, are we unknowingly embedding our own invisible biases into the very foundation of the future?